My mother demanded I cancel my wedding to spare my younger sister's feelings, but I flipped the script by uninviting them, leaving everyone speechless. I'm Sarah, 30 years old, and my fiancé, Michael, 31 years old, proposed to me last March. We've been together for 6 years. He's my best friend, my partner, and the most supportive person I know. When he got down on one knee, it felt like everything in my life had fallen perfectly into place. But the moment I shared the news, my mom and my half-sister Lily, 24 years old, turned my engagement and wedding into their personal battleground. My mom married my stepdad Greg when I was 5. Lily is their daughter, and while we grew up together in our Seattle home, we've always been more like acquaintances who tolerate each other than true sisters. Lily has had this strange competitive streak with me since we were kids. She'd throw tantrums if I got a better grade, or if a relative complimented me. As we grew older, the stakes got higher. I earned a scholarship to college. Lily didn't pursue higher education. I've built a steady relationship with Michael over years, while she's bounced from one messy romance to another. Now that I'm engaged, it's like my happiness is a personal affront to her. Michael proposed last March during a quiet weekend at home, and we decided on a January wedding, a small, intimate affair with about 70 guests. It felt so us, cozy and heartfelt. I was thrilled to start planning, expecting my family to share my joy. Boy, was I mistaken. When I called my mom to share the news, her first reaction wasn't excitement, but, "Oh, Lily's not going to like this." I laughed it off, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Apparently, my engagement would hurt Lily's feelings because she was single and trying to figure things out. I brushed it aside, thinking it was just an odd comment. But a few weeks later, Lily announced she was getting married to a guy she'd been dating for 3 months. Now, I try not to judge other people's choices, but this felt off. Lily's always been impulsive, but marrying a guy none of us knew after 3 months? It didn't sit right with me. Still, I kept my opinions to myself. It was her life, her decision. But by July, Lily's whirlwind marriage blew up. Her husband, Ethan, cheated on her with her best friend, no less. Just 2 months after their wedding, she filed for divorce, and the whole situation was messy and heartbreaking. I genuinely felt bad for her and tried to be supportive, reaching out to check in, but every time I got the cold shoulder. It was like she was angry at me and I couldn't figure out why. Then it hit me. She didn't want my support. She wanted to blame me. From what I've pieced together, Lily saw my engagement as some kind of challenge she needed to outdo. When her marriage fell apart, she found it easier to resent me than to take responsibility for her own choices. By the time fall rolled around, things were tense. Lily and I hadn't really spoken since her divorce, and Mom was acting strange whenever I brought up wedding plans. She'd get quiet or change the subject, like she was avoiding the topic altogether. I figured she was just sensitive about weddings because of Lily's situation, but I should have seen the warning signs. Let me tell you, nothing prepares you for the sheer absurdity of being guilt-tripped about your own wedding. I thought planning would be stressful because of logistics or budgets, not because my own family would turn it into a twisted competition. So, it's mid-November, and Michael and I sent out our wedding invitations. I was so excited, finally feeling like everything was coming together. That excitement didn't last long. 2 days later, I got a call from my mom. It was odd because she rarely calls. She's more of a text once-a-month person. I answered, thinking she might want to chat about the wedding. I should have known better. The conversation started innocently enough. She asked how I was, how Michael was, and then casually slipped in, "So, you're really going through with the wedding?" I thought she was just confirming the date. "Yeah, of course. Everything's set. The venue's booked, caterer's ready, flowers ordered. Most of it's paid for." That's when she let out a sigh. Not a normal sigh, but a loud, dramatic, "You're about to ruin someone's life" sigh. "Well," she said, dragging out the word like she was about to impart some profound wisdom. "I've been thinking about Lily, and I really think you should reconsider." I paused, genuinely confused. Reconsider what? She hesitated like she was gearing up for a big speech. "I just don't think it's a good time for a wedding, Sarah. Lily's still so heartbroken from her divorce. Having a big celebration like this so soon after everything she's been through feels a little insensitive." I honestly thought I misheard her. "Wait, you think I should cancel my wedding for Lily?" "Well, yes," she said like it was the most reasonable request in the world. "She's been through so much, and seeing you get married so soon after her divorce is going to hurt her a lot." I was stunned. I didn't even know how to respond. "Mom, we've been planning this wedding for almost a year. The venue's booked, the deposits are paid. How can you ask me to just cancel it?" She didn't miss a beat. "You could always do something small, a church ceremony maybe with just immediate family. That way you still get married, but it's not such a big production. You wouldn't be flaunting it." Flaunting it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, this isn't about flaunting anything. It's about celebrating my relationship with Michael. We've been together for 6 years. This is our day." She sighed again, even heavier this time. "I just think if you really loved your sister, you'd do this for her. She needs time to heal, and a big wedding is going to make things worse for her." At this point, I was furious, but tried to stay calm. "Mom, I get that Lily's going through a rough time, but this has nothing to do with her. Michael and I have been planning this for so long. It's not fair to ask us to change everything because of her choices." She didn't like that. Her choices? Sarah, she didn't choose to have her husband cheat on her. She didn't choose to have her life fall apart. "Yeah, but she did choose to marry a guy she barely knew after 3 months." I snapped. That was the wrong thing to say. Mom completely lost it, accusing me of being cruel, selfish, and not understanding what Lily had been through. She even threw in a classic, "I thought I raised you better than this." At that point, I couldn't take it anymore. "Mom, I'm not canceling my wedding. End of discussion." I hung up, shaking with anger. I immediately called Michael and told him everything. He was just as baffled as I was. "Who asks their own daughter to cancel her wedding for someone else's divorce?" he said. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but of course it wasn't. Over the next few weeks, Mom doubled down on her campaign to guilt me into canceling or scaling down the wedding. She'd call every few days, always with some variation of the same argument. "Lily's heartbroken. You're being insensitive. A small wedding would mean so much to the family." At one point, she even tried to rope Michael into it, calling him directly and saying, "You're such a thoughtful person, Michael. I know you'll understand why this is important for Lily." Luckily, he shut that down immediately, telling her we were sticking with our original plans. But then Lily got involved. She started texting me, making passive-aggressive comments, clank, "Must be nice to have everything go perfectly for you," or, "Don't you think it's a little soon for a big celebration?" She even brought up the date, saying, "January feels like such a weird time for a wedding. Are you sure you didn't pick it to rub it in my face?" Rub it in her face? I couldn't believe the audacity. I tried ignoring her at first, but she just kept escalating. She started calling, leaving these long, guilt-trippy voicemails about how hard it was for her to even think about weddings, and how my insensitivity was making her healing process so much harder. The worst part was how Mom and Lily seemed to feed off each other. Mom would call and say something like, "Lily was crying all night thinking about your wedding." Then Lily would text the next day saying, "Mom's so upset about how you're handling this." It was exhausting. I was at my breaking point. I couldn't believe how far they were willing to go to make my wedding about them. This was the moment I realized just how toxic their behavior was. This wasn't about Lily's divorce or her feelings. It was about control. They wanted me to put my life on hold, to cater to their insecurities, and I was done letting them dictate my happiness. By December, things had officially spiraled out of control. Lily was no longer content to sulk privately or throw snarky texts my way. She was now on a mission to drag my name through the mud with anyone who'd listen, and I was getting whiplash trying to keep up with her stunts. It started small. I heard from my cousin Emma, who's been my family informant, that Lily had been calling relatives to warn them about me. According to her, I was flaunting my wedding in her face to humiliate her. She even claimed I'd deliberately chosen January, knowing it would be too soon after her divorce for her to handle emotionally. I couldn't wrap my head around the logic. My engagement was set months before she even got married, let alone divorced. How was I supposed to predict her life would implode when I sent out save the dates? But logic doesn't matter much when someone's determined to play the victim. Her stories got more dramatic with each retelling. Emma told me Lily was saying things like, "Sarah always thinks she's better than me. She's just rubbing her perfect little life in my face because she knows I'm struggling." The worst part? Some family members actually bought into her narrative. My mom, of course, was her biggest cheerleader. She started calling me almost daily, asking if I'd reconsidered canceling or scaling back the wedding. "Lily's still so fragile," she'd say. "She cried all night after seeing your wedding invitations. You really don't need a big event. Can't you just do something simple?" I stood firm every single time, but it was draining. The real breaking point came at a family gathering on Christmas. Michael and I had been invited to a dinner at my aunt's house in Portland, and I thought it would be a nice way to decompress after all the wedding stress. Of course, Lily and Mom were there too, which should have been my first red flag. Things were tense from the start. Lily barely acknowledged me, but every time I mentioned the wedding, she'd huff or roll her eyes. At one point, I was chatting with my aunt about floral arrangements, and Lily muttered loudly, "Must be nice to waste so much money on a party when some people can barely pick up the pieces of their lives." I ignored her, but it was clear she wanted a reaction. Eventually, the conversation shifted, and I started to relax a bit. That is, until Lily suddenly burst into tears in the middle of the living room. She was full-on sobbing, shaking her head and muttering, "I can't believe how cruel people can be." Everyone froze. My aunt rushed over to comfort her, asking what was wrong. That's when Lily launched into her performance. "It's just so hard," she said through her tears. "I've been through so much this year, and now I have to sit here and listen to Sarah talk about her perfect wedding, like nothing else matters. She knows how much pain I'm in, but she doesn't care." My mom chimed in immediately, rubbing Lily's back like she was the victim of some terrible injustice. "She's right, Sarah. You need to be more considerate. You have no idea how hard this has been for her." That's when I lost it. I'd been holding my tongue for weeks, but I couldn't take it anymore. "This wedding has nothing to do with Lily," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Michael and I have been planning this for a year. If she's upset, that's not my fault. Maybe she should take some responsibility for rushing into a bad marriage instead of blaming me for her problems." The room went dead silent. My aunt looked like she wanted to sink into the couch, and Lily's tears instantly turned to rage. "How dare you!" she snapped. "You don't know what it's like to have your life fall apart. You've had everything handed to you, your scholarship, your boyfriend, your perfect little life. You've never had to struggle for anything." I stood up, shaking with anger. "You're right, Lily. I don't know what it's like to have my life fall apart, but that's because I don't make impulsive decisions just to compete with other people. Maybe if you spent less time being bitter and more time working on yourself, you wouldn't be in this mess." At that point, Michael grabbed my hand and said, "We're leaving." I didn't argue. On the drive home, I kept replaying the conversation in my head, second-guessing whether I'd been too harsh. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had every right to stand up for myself. Lily had been pushing me for weeks, and I was done letting her turn my wedding into her pity party. What really stuck with me, though, was how Mom jumped to Lily's defense without hesitation. Not once did she try to understand my side or acknowledge the stress this was causing me. It felt like she'd picked her favorite, and it wasn't me. The next day, I got a text from Mom. "You owe your sister an apology for what you said last night. She's been through so much, and you were unnecessarily cruel." I didn't reply. I was done apologizing for things that weren't my fault. By this point, it was clear that Lily wasn't going to back down, and Mom was going to keep enabling her. I didn't know what their next move would be, but I knew. I had to prepare for the worst. Update 1. Hey again, thank you so much for your support on my last post. Your advice really helped me see things clearly. After the disaster at the family dinner, I knew I had to draw a hard line. Lily and Mom weren't just being unreasonable. They were actively trying to sabotage my happiness. Ignoring them wasn't working, and defending myself only seemed to fuel their drama. I realized the only way to move forward was to cut them out of the wedding entirely. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary. 2 days after the dinner, I sat down with Michael and laid it all out. "I think I need to uninvite them," I said, feeling a lump in my throat. "They're just going to make things worse if they're there." Michael nodded immediately. "I've been thinking the same thing. It sucks, but this is your day, our day, and you deserve to enjoy it without worrying about their next move." His support eased the weight a little, but the thought of barring my mom and sister from my wedding was daunting. It wasn't just about them. It was about the ripple effect it might have on the rest of the family. Still, I knew I couldn't let their toxic behavior overshadow everything Michael and I had worked so hard to plan. So I drafted an email. I kept it short and factual, explaining that their actions over the past few months, spreading rumors, guilt-tripping me, and stirring up drama, had made it clear they weren't supportive of my wedding. I told them their behavior had caused me significant stress, and for my own peace of mind, I'd decided to uninvite them. I hit send and instantly felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Within hours, the responses started rolling in. Mom was the first to reply, and let me tell you, it was a doozy. She called me cold-hearted and accused me of tearing the family apart. Her email was filled with dramatic lines like, "I never thought my own daughter would betray me like this," and "You've chosen a man over your own blood." She even threw in a low blow about how my dad would be disappointed in me if he were still alive. Classic guilt trip tactics. I didn't reply. Next came Lily. Her response was exactly what I expected, full of anger and self-pity. She accused me of being jealous of her, still not sure what I'm supposed to be jealous of, and claimed I was punishing her for being honest about her feelings. She ended her email with, "You'll regret this when you realize you've destroyed this family." I didn't reply to her either. The fallout didn't stop there. Over the next few days, I started getting calls and texts from other family members, mostly the ones Mom and Lily had already turned against me. My uncle called to say I was being immature and should just let it go for the sake of family harmony. A cousin I barely talked to left a voicemail saying, "I can't believe you'd do something like this to your own mother." At first, I felt overwhelmed by the backlash. But then, something wonderful happened. The people who actually mattered started showing up for me. My dad's sister, Aunt Clara, 32 years old, called from Portland to say she was proud of me for standing up for myself. "You've put up with their nonsense for long enough," she said. "It's about time you put your foot down." My cousin Emma, who'd been keeping me updated on Lily's antics, sent a long text. "Don't let them get to you. Everyone who really knows you is on your side." Even my godmother, a no-nonsense woman, called to reassure me, "Your wedding should be about love and celebration, not drama and bitterness. You're doing the right thing." Their support was like a warm hug for my soul. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't alone in this fight. But of course, Mom and Lily weren't going to let it go quietly. About a week after I sent the email, Emma called again, sounding both amused and annoyed. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Lily's telling people you uninvited her because you're threatened by her." I couldn't help but laugh. Threatened by what, exactly? Apparently, she was spinning a wild story that Michael had been flirting with her, and I'd found out. So I was trying to get rid of her to save face. It was so ridiculous I didn't even know how to respond. Emma and I both knew there was zero truth to it, but it was infuriating that she was trying to drag Michael into her web of lies. "That's just desperate," I said. "No one's going to believe that." "Honestly, most people don't," Emma replied. "But you know how she is. She's going to keep spinning this until she finds someone gullible enough to take her side." I decided not to waste any more energy worrying about Lily's delusions. At this point, I was focused on protecting my peace and making sure my wedding day went off without a hitch. To that end, Michael and I sat down to go over the guest list and finalize all the details. We reached out to the venue to make sure they had our backs in case Lily or Mom tried to pull anything. We also hired a couple of security guards to keep things under control, something I never thought I'd have to do for my own wedding. But here we were. Through it all, Michael was my rock. He reminded me that this was our day, and we didn't owe anyone an explanation for protecting our happiness. By the time New Year's rolled around, I felt like I was finally regaining control. Lily and Mom could spin their narratives all they wanted, but they weren't going to ruin this for me. Update 2. I know it hasn't been long since my last update, but what happened next was so wild I had to share it right away. By January, I thought I'd seen every shade of Lily's jealousy, pettiness, and downright manipulative behavior. But she took it to a whole new level that left me absolutely floored, and honestly, a little disgusted. It all started with a weird text Michael got one evening. We were sitting on the couch, finally relaxing after a stressful day of finalizing wedding details, when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and I noticed his face go from relaxed to tense. "What is it?" I asked, already bracing myself for drama. "It's Lily," he said, showing me the message. The text read, "Hey, Michael, I really need someone to talk to. I know you probably think I'm a terrible person right now, but I'm really struggling, and I feel like you're the only one who understands. Can we meet up?" At first, I didn't know how to react. On the surface, it seemed innocent enough, but knowing Lily and how hard she'd been working to cause problems, I had a bad feeling. Michael must have sensed it too, because he didn't reply right away. Instead, he turned to me and said, "I don't like this. It feels off." "Because it is off," I said. "She's never even liked you. Why would she suddenly want to talk to you about her feelings?" We agreed it was best to ignore her, but the messages kept coming. Over the next few days, she sent Michael a string of increasingly desperate texts. She talked about how lonely she felt, how she had no one else to turn to, and how much she appreciated his kindness during such a difficult time. Let me remind you, Michael has never had any kind of meaningful conversation with Lily. He's always been polite to her, but they're not close by any stretch. So this sudden outpouring of gratitude felt completely calculated. Michael was as creeped out as I was, but we decided to wait and see what her endgame was before responding. And sure enough, it didn't take long for her true intentions to come to light. Later, Michael got another message, and this one was so blatant it made my blood boil. Lily wrote, "I've been thinking a lot about you lately, Michael. I know it's wrong, but I can't help it. I feel like we have a connection that Sarah doesn't understand. I don't know what to do with these feelings." I was furious, not just at her for being so brazen, but at the sheer disrespect of it all. She knew we were getting married in a matter of days, and here she was, trying to wedge herself between us with some cheap manipulative tricks. Michael, bless his heart, immediately showed me the message and asked, "How do you want to handle this?" I took a deep breath and said, "Let's not give her the satisfaction of a direct response. Block her number, but before you do, take screenshots of everything." He did exactly that, and we kept the screenshots as receipts in case she decided to spin some wild narrative later. The next morning, I decided I wasn't going to let this slide, but I also wasn't going to respond to her directly. There was no point engaging with someone so desperate for attention. Instead, I sent an email to my mom and a few other close family members, laying out what had happened. I kept it straightforward, attaching the screenshots and explaining that this was proof I was right to uninvite Lily from the wedding. "This behavior is toxic and manipulative," I wrote. "I've done everything I can to keep the peace, but this crosses a line, and I hope now you understand why I excluded her." The responses were mixed. My mom, predictably, came to Lily's defense. She claimed I must have misunderstood her intentions and that I was blowing things out of proportion. She even had the nerve to suggest that Michael might have misread the messages. "I can't believe you'd accuse your own sister of something so horrible," Mom wrote. "Lily's just going through a tough time, and you're making it all about you." I rolled my eyes so hard I almost sprained something. At this point, I wasn't even surprised, but other family members were much more supportive. Emma, my cousin who'd been in my corner from the start, called me immediately after reading the email. "Are you serious, Faya?" she said. "I knew Lily was a piece of work, but this is next level. Good for you for cutting her off." Aunt Clara was just as outraged. "You're absolutely right to keep her out of the wedding," she said. "She's proven time and again that she doesn't respect you, and this just confirms it." Their support meant the world to me, but I'd be lying if I said it completely erased the hurt. Lily's stunt wasn't just disrespectful, it was humiliating. It felt like she was trying to undermine everything Michael and I had built together, and I couldn't understand why. Was it jealousy, spite, some twisted need for attention? Maybe all of the above. Whatever her reasons, I knew one thing for sure. She wasn't going to win. With just a few days left until the wedding, I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't let Lily or Mom ruin this for me. I also made sure to double down on security measures for the big day. I reached out to the venue and gave them a heads up about the situation, letting them know Lily and Mom were explicitly uninvited. I even hired an extra security guard, just in case they decided to show up anyway. It felt a little extreme, but after everything they'd pulled, I wasn't taking any chances. I now felt more prepared than ever to face whatever nonsense they might try to throw my way. Lily's dirty tricks might have shaken me, but they didn't break me. If anything, they only made me more determined to stand my ground and protect my peace. Update 3. Hey, again, let's hope this is the last time you hear about my family drama. Let me tell you, I thought I'd prepared myself for every possible scenario leading up to my wedding. But nothing quite prepares you for the moment your own family tries to sabotage the happiest day of your life. The morning of the wedding started off beautifully. The venue in Seattle looked magical with all the flowers and decorations we'd picked out over the past year. The weather was perfect for our ceremony, and my bridesmaids kept me laughing and relaxed while we got ready. Michael and I had agreed to do a first look before the ceremony, so once I was dressed, I stepped outside to meet him in the garden. The second I saw him standing there, looking every bit as nervous and excited as I felt, all the stress and drama melted away. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, and nothing else mattered, or so I thought. About 30 minutes before the ceremony was set to begin, I was back in the bridal suite doing some last-minute touch-ups when my maid of honor, Jessica, came rushing in. She looked flustered, which immediately set off alarm bells. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Lily and your mom are here." My stomach dropped. "What? How?" "I thought security was handling it." "They're trying to get in," Jessica said. "Security stopped them at the gate, but they're causing a huge scene." Of course they were. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "What are they saying?" Jessica hesitated, which had told me it wasn't good. "Your mom's crying and saying she just wants to see her daughter get married. Lily's, well, She's screaming about how you're a horrible person and how you don't deserve this day. I felt my blood start to boil. It wasn't enough for them to make the months leading up to the wedding a nightmare. They had to try to ruin the actual day, too. "What do you want me to do?" Jessica asked. "Nothing," I said firmly. "Let security handle it. If we go out there, it's just going to give them what they want." Jessica nodded and left to check in with the guards. Meanwhile, I sat down and tried to collect myself. I could hear my mom and Lily faintly in the distance, shouting and arguing with security, and it took everything in me not to march out there and give them a piece of my mind. A few minutes later, Jessica came back with an update. "They're refusing to leave. The venue manager offered to call the police, but they're worried it'll cause an even bigger scene." I groaned. This was exactly why I'd uninvited them in the first place. "Do you want me to tell Michael?" Jessica asked. I shook my head. "No, he doesn't need this stress right now. Just make sure they don't get anywhere near the ceremony." Thankfully, security was on top of it. They managed to keep my mom and Lily contained to the parking lot, and eventually, the venue staff called a ride service to take them away. But not before Lily shouted loud enough for everyone in the vicinity to hear, "You'll regret this, Sarah! You'll regret cutting out your own family!" Once they were gone, I took another deep breath and told myself to let it go. They were out of sight now, and I wasn't going to let them steal my joy. The ceremony itself was everything I'd dreamed of, and more. Standing up there with Michael, surrounded by our closest friends and family, the supportive ones at least, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. This was what mattered, not the drama, not the bitterness, just this moment with the people who truly cared about us. After the ceremony, during the cocktail hour, I started hearing bits and pieces about what had gone down with my mom and Lily. Apparently, they'd been shouting accusations at the security guards, saying I was brainwashed by Michael, and that the family would never forgive me for excluding them. A few guests even overheard them from the parking lot, which was embarrassing, but most people just rolled their eyes and brushed it off. Aunt Clara came up to me during dinner and said, "I'm so proud of you for standing your ground. They showed their true colors today, and everyone sees it now." That was a common sentiment throughout the night. Cousins, friends, even some of my mom's old friends pulled me aside to tell me they were on my side. It felt like a collective reckoning. People finally realized how toxic my mom and Lily had been, and they weren't having it. The rest of the evening was a blur of laughter, dancing, and pure joy. Michael and I shared our first dance under twinkling lights. My maid of honor gave a hilarious and heartfelt toast, and my dad's best friend, who's practically an uncle to me, brought the house down with a story about how he once caught Michael trying to sneak out of a family barbecue with a plate of ribs. By the time the night ended, I felt lighter than I had in months. Lily and my mom hadn't won. Their attempts to ruin the day had only highlighted how much love and support Michael and I had from the people who actually mattered. When I got back to the hotel that night, I checked my phone and saw I had a dozen missed calls and texts from my mom. I didn't bother reading them. I was done letting her or Lily take up space in my life. Cutting them out completely was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. But standing there with Michael, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us, I knew it was the right one. Thanks again for sharing your thoughts with me throughout this mess. I really do appreciate it. I'll let you know if there's any post-wedding drama, but let's hope not. I'm so done. Update 4. Hey, you won't believe what happened about a week after the wedding. I got a call from my cousin Emma, who, as usual, was the first to deliver the family gossip. "You're not going to believe what just happened," she said, sounding way more excited than concerned. I sighed. "What now?" "Lily and your mom had a huge fight," Emma said. "Like epic-level fight. And get this, your mom kicked her out of the house." I almost dropped my phone. "Wait, what? What happened?" Emma was more than happy to fill me in. Apparently, after the wedding, Lily had been sulking around my mom's house, stewing over the fact that her grand plan to ruin my day had failed. According to Emma, she was blaming everyone: me, Michael, the security guards, even some random cousin who apparently didn't try hard enough to stop me. The real explosion happened when she turned on my mom. Lily accused her of not doing enough to stop the wedding, screaming that it was Mom's fault I'd gone through with it, that Mom should have been more forceful in convincing me to cancel. Mom, who has always coddled Lily no matter how ridiculous she's been, finally hit her breaking point. Emma said Mom yelled back, telling Lily she was tired of the drama and that she was an adult who needed to take responsibility for her own life. Lily didn't take that well. She went on a full-blown rant, accusing Mom of failing her as a parent and choosing me over her. It got so bad that Mom finally told her to pack her things and leave. When Emma told me all this, I couldn't help but laugh, not because I thought it was funny, but because of the sheer irony of it. After months of Mom defending Lily and taking her side, it all came back to bite her. "She really kicked her out?" I asked, still trying to process it. "Yup," Emma said. "Lily's staying with a friend for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if she comes crawling back in a few weeks." The whole situation felt like karma in action. In the end, their toxicity turned inward, and they ended up taking it out on each other. I wish I could say I felt bad for either of them, but honestly, I didn't. After everything they put me through, it felt like poetic justice. As for me, I'm done with both of them. I've blocked their numbers, muted them on social media, and made it clear to the rest of the family that I'm not interested in hearing about their latest antics. Michael and I are focusing on starting this new chapter of our lives together, and their drama can't touch us anymore.
Thank you for listening. Please share your thoughts, like this video if you found it helpful, and